Yes, again, but this time I'm actually more curious about me and what's happening in my world than I am about what's happening in the external world. And how can could this film be an opportunity for me to get a greater insight into myself? And perhaps meeting one of the greatest Zen masters in the world and having some time with him, I would get some answers to these questions.
Yeah,
So I
wow.
said, yes, sign me up. When are we going? He goes, we're jumping on a plane next week. So I said, great, let's go. And I didn't know anything about Thich Nhat Hanh before I said yes, only through my friend Max and his brother. Um, and I knew very little about Buddhism. I just knew that there was this strong curiosity to start understanding myself better, and that this could be a way in to me. And we flew into the mountains of just outside San Diego in a place called Escondido, where they have a monastery there called the Deer Park Monastery. Very late at night, I arrived at like 11 p.m. It was I was jet lagged, and I was ushered in to the monastery's library because they had all of their beds filled up, which is where I spent my first night. And I woke up in the morning quite late and needed to head pretty steadfast to the Dharma talk, the big talk that Thich Nhat Hanh gives when there are these retreats that they hold in these monasteries for members of the public to experience meditation and mindfulness. So I walked carefully, very slowly walked into the hall. I sat at the back and I shuffled into my meditation cushion. And in this moment, Thich Nhat Hanh, who was in the middle of saying something, turned around and he looked to the audience, and I felt he was making eye contact with me. And he said, the best education that you can give your children is to know yourself. And when he said that, it was this light bulb moment that went
Wow.
off inside me. And I started looking around my shoulder just to check, oh, is he talking to, like, is he, there was this, like, what's going on here? This is crazy. This was the question that I had inside that this burning question had been with me for a few months. And now he's given me this answer that actually the best not the education isn't about what best school I should send my children to. It's all about how well do I know myself? How responsible can I be for my own sense of awareness and consciousness? And that in itself will be the best offering that I can make for my children, rather than unconsciously and blindly dumping on them all this unresolved, ununderstood stuff inside me. And then he said, mindfulness is one of the best ways to get into the present moment. How often do you spend time with your loved ones and you're busy thinking about what's on your to-do list? Because if you're doing that, you are physically present, but you're not
Yes.
you're not you're not offering real, true presence. And if you can arrive in a moment with somebody that you love and you're really, really there, you're not being distracted by your phone, nothing else. You're just showing up and you're saying, I am here. I am in this moment with you right now. You're transmitting true love embodied in the feeling of being truly present. And mindfulness is the tool to get you there. And I was thinking, wow, I need to know this stuff. I mean, I'm busy and I'm an international filmmaker. I want to be with people I love, especially my children. And I want to be there. I want to be in that moment, not in the future, not in the
Yes.
past, but right there in that moment. I need to get to know this thing. I need to get to know more about this stuff. So then after that talk, I found Max and I said, Max, just sign me up. I want to make this movie with you. And that's kind of how it really began. And we thought it would take about 12 to 18 months and ended up taking about 4 years.
Yes, always, right? I love that. Wow, Mark, I almost cried, but I didn't because obviously I had to be focused right now. But I felt it moved me so much because I've had experienced, and many of my friends, we went in a tour in India many years ago, and to the all the monasteries and stayed with the gurus and everything. But those experiences where the guru or the teacher, looks into your eyes, and you really get answered your questions, and you begin to wonder, like, how is this happening? How is this magic? But the response that Thich Nhat gave you, and that you gave yourself, right? Because also when he gave it to you, it was already within that answer. And the best education is to know yourself. I think that just in itself is a treasure for this sharing that you are giving us, and the power of your curiosity, which has been a path to go in. It's very palpable, Mark. I could feel it in your post on Instagram. I got to know about you because of the passing of Thich Nhat Hanh, and I just connected. I knew there was this energetic, just choice of being present. One of my teachers long time ago said in India, he said, the reason a lot of people gravitate to the past when they're with a loved one is because usually they don't feel the loved one present. If they feel the loved one going over here, over there, like children, they will try to remember things just to be connected with someone. So it's a lot of compassion. It's called the compassionate path in the Vedic tradition, but it reminds me, all of your sharing reminds me of the ancient teachings that are so needed for the modern times of being present and being mindful. And what you just shared about how you were feeling, you were very successful, but you were really not happy, or you were depressed. That's when people are pursuing the hustle world, right? Like, let's have more, let's be more, but you are actually deleting kind of your spirit. And I love that you have heard the call. I call it the call of fulfillment. Like, yes, I'm successful, but is this fulfilling? And I love that your question led you to experience these incredible this incredible experience of just being present in the now and being fully who you are. What a great gift for your children. And I believe that's when we really leave legacy, when we are fully who we are. What best gift for liberation for other human beings, that, hey, I am a walking, living permission to myself to be fully who I am. And I love you because who you are, is going to emerge, and I support that. So I'm super, moved by this. And so I know you also did another film with Elizabeth Gilbert. Um, could you share a little bit about that one? Because I also know it's about grieving and death, and it requires a lot of mindfulness to be in that presence too, correct?
Yeah, well, that is not a film that's finished. That's a film that I'm making right now.
Wow. Wow. Oh my gosh. I don't know if we can talk about it, or shall
Yeah,
we
yeah,
just
sure, sure. Yeah, no, no,
okay.
no, we can. It's a film that I'm making right now. And yeah, I think several years ago, I got really interested in this idea about death and dying. Um, I think I think through my experience of making Walk With Me, I did experience a death, and it was an ego death. And a lot of things about who I thought I was and the kind of life I was trying to build myself did um, fall away to some degree. And it felt like there was this big, epic change happening in my life. Some people call these um, nervous breakdowns, and my therapist calls it spiritual breakthroughs. And I definitely felt like I was having something like that. So I became curious about this whole idea about death and dying and living in the present moment. And
Mm.
how can I, again, make a film that can inspire people, or work on a project that can inspire people? Like, what if we really lived out each day as if it was our last day? What kind of decisions would we make in terms of what job do we do, how much time we spend with the people that we love, how much time we stop spending with the people that we don't truly love, the degree to which we speak what we truly feel, rather than being afraid to speak up for what we feel. What would happen if that was really the case? maybe none of that would happen. But this idea of really understanding that life is extremely short, it goes by very, very quickly.
Yes.
How can we really focus in and live it to the best that we possibly can? And so I started to do some research about people who were dying and seeing if there's ways in which I can spend time with them to get some insights into what they're experiencing that could potentially inspire the living in some kind of way. And eventually, I found myself a few years later during the promotion of Walk With Me. I was in San Francisco. Walk With Me was the name of the film that I made about Thich Nhat Hanh. I was an event. I was a keynote speaker at an event that Elizabeth Gilbert was talking at, and in the green room backstage, I got friendly and talking to Elizabeth Gilbert's partner at the time, Rayya Elias, and we got chatty, and it transpires that she was telling me that she had terminal cancer. And I said, that's really interesting. I'm interested in making a film about death and dying. I wonder if you'd ever be open to me making a film with you as you go on that journey. She goes, well, maybe, yes, she said. And let's catch up, at another time. And cut a long story short, when I flew back to the UK and she went back to New York, we caught up and we had a Skype call. And she said, yes, I'm up for this. Why don't, come out to New York? Let's spend a week together. And if we get on, then let's do it. And if we don't get on, then let's not do it. So I jumped on a plane. I came out to New York. I spent time with Elizabeth Gilbert and Rayya Elias while they were in New York for that week. I was following them and with my camera wherever I went. We all got on really, really well, the three of us. Liz was writing her and journaling her experience. Rayya is a musician and had just written a memoir about her own life, and she was keen, as part of her bucket list, to record her final album before she dies. And I was there as the filmmaker. So three creative people really coming together in various different ways to see how we can make sense of something that's almost senseless. It's just such an existential moment of our lives. How can we find a way to make some sense out of this? And creativity felt like the way in. And I ended up spending a year with them until Rayya passed away. I started filming when Rayya had 12 months left to live, and then I filmed all the way through until she died. And that was quite some time ago now. It was several years ago. And then there was a whole grief process. I got extremely close to Rayya. She was not just, and her family and her friends. So I didn't really I never felt like I was just like a filmmaker. I felt like I became a very deep, close friend, and I got very emotionally attached. So we all went through a grieving process together. And it's only been recently that I've been able to go back to that material that I shot and start to tell that story. So now I think it's a film about grief and it's a film about love. And I think they're so connected together that what I learned through this experience is that it's actually quite hard for me as somebody who's living to try and tell a story about death and dying. Because I'll never know what that's truly like unless I have that experience. But I do understand what it's like as somebody who's living to grieve for something or somebody that I've lost. And I think grief and understanding about how do we grieve and also how do we love and celebrate life are two synonymous, interconnected emotions. And that is essentially the story that I'm now telling. And I'm deep right now in the middle of the edit to finish this film.
Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness, Mark. This is every single thing you've shared is just equipped with what human life is about and grief. I don't know, we've never spoken, but I had a near death experience once. I was dead 23 seconds. So I have had the ego deaths many times. I think I have to have one of those once a year because I accumulate stuff. But I had a car accident when I was 17.